we're live. Welcome back, everyone, to another high vibe conversation. I'm your host, Shel Shapiro, and with me today is the incredible Nicole Hyman. We've also got Linda Vetrus Nichols, Jenny Langren, Dorit Carlson, and Stina Marie with us here today. And today we are going to be talking all about authentic leadership. Before we dive into that, I want to remind you that this is a safe space. We invite you to share with us as we talk through our life lessons and hold space for you to work through yours. So if at any point you feel like you want to add something to the conversation, whether you're watching live or on the replay, please feel free to share with us in the chat. We will make sure to respond to you and get back to you to continue that conversation. If at any point you feel like you want to continue the conversation with one of us individually, you also have the ability to book a call with us and do that one-on-one. The link here will give you the option to choose which of us you want to select to schedule with, and you have the ability to do that. You also, if you're new here, have the ability to catch us on the replays and catch up on previous conversations. So make sure to follow along and subscribe to us on YouTube for all the previous conversations. And without further ado, let's kick it off with authentic leadership. Nicole, welcome to High Vibe Conversations. We are so excited to have you with us today. Tell everybody who you are, what you're all about.
Thank you very much, Shel. I'm very excited and delighted to be here with you all on these High Vibe Conversations. And my name is Nicole. I'm an executive coach for CEOs and boards. I'm an author. I wrote the book How to Develop the Authentic Leader in You. And I also speak on leadership alliances. And really believe that authenticity is the basis for the leadership that we need today to really create a new world, a more sustainable world, a world with regenerative leadership. So apart from that, I am a mom and a stepmom of 7 children in total, and Belgian by nationality, living in Switzerland, have been living here for the last 25 years, and I love nature. I love to be in nature, and this love also goes on in my role as a board member of our foundation, where we built a leadership school in the Amazon for Indigenous leaders and from Indigenous leaders to really better protect and preserve the lungs of the earth. Yeah, so that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, wow. You've been doing some amazing things beyond just authentic leadership, but you can see that very clearly in all facets of your life, right? So talk to us a little bit more about what authentic leadership means to you. Did that stem out of like seeing inauthenticity in the workplace and in the world, or like where did the need for being authentic come from?
I would love to start with exploring what is authenticity, because I believe it's often misunderstood or misinterpreted. And maybe we start with what is it not, because often when leaders tell me, oh, but I'm impulsive and when this happens and it triggers and then I get super emotional and that's me and people have to take me the way I am. So that's not being authentic, that's being unconscious. And that is not taking responsibility for the impact you have. And so I think that's super important to get that, because when I read articles of people who are against authenticity, they are speaking about exactly that. And authenticity for me is really the constant, never-ending process of growth, of evolution, together with taking responsibility for our impact, really giving ourselves into a cycle of taking action, reflection, taking new action, and always becoming a better version of ourselves. So it should be a verb instead of a noun, because it's a dynamic process that really never ends. And the day it ends, if we look at nature, when something doesn't grow anymore, is when something dies. And as we are nature and part of nature, this also applies to us.
Something that you shared really stood out to me. It was when you were talking about how always taking action means it, always wanting to improve yourself.
Mhm.
That's not the exact quote that you said. That's my interpretation of it, but it really stuck out because there's so many people in the world who don't take any action towards improving themselves. They're just okay with the status quo and going along to get along. um, does does that impact others who want to be more authentic in the way they lead?
Yes, I think if we don't grow, if you look around and you look at people who are not interested in growth and refuse, do not want to, maybe they are scared also of their own power, usually they live their lives in frustration. There are also studies that show that inner growth is directly related to our subjective experience of happiness. And for those who invest in their inner growth, I think you can relate that it does make us happy. There is a direct correlation with the experience of happiness. So people who don't grow are usually spending way more time in frustration than in happiness. And it's a choice. It's also a courageous choice as we face what triggers us and parts of us that maybe need integration or need some love, need some healing. Yeah.
I, I'm taking my time in responding because you're just listening to you speak is so not only powerful, it's also very calming and reassuring as I listen to you. So the fact I'm at a loss for words is not because I'm not filled with thoughts. It's because I'm taking it all in and letting the sound of your voice just resonate with me. So thank you for sharing that, because I do think it's important to take action for growth and not stay stuck or frustrated or living in that fear or resilience. Linda, I'm coming over to you if you're able to hear me. What's coming up for you when we talk about authentic leadership?
Well, I love the fact that Nicole really defined it because as I've been interviewing other thought leaders, something came up about like I don't really like that word authenticity, and I agree. There's things about that word that it's kind of like humility. There's false humility, and I love your definition, Nicole, about it's being unconscious if you don't get it. So that's kind of where my head went.
Mm.
Thank you, Linda. Um, Jenny, Nicole was talking all about choice there a little bit. What's coming up for you when we talk about authentic leadership? And can you add to the conversation from a choice perspective?
Absolutely. The word that comes to me in comparison of authenticity is transparency. Often we think that, you know, being transparent and being authentic is the same thing. And those are choices. That's why I'm answering your question. But like transparency is the level of the amount of information that we're sharing. Like Nicole was saying, I'm speaking my truth. That's just the way I am. I'm honest, but authenticity is also being conscious and being mindful of the level of transparency, also making sure that the information that you are sharing is real. It means that you are pouring from the same well every time. It means that there's a consistency in your behavior, that you are the same person in the line at the grocery store as you are sitting in the boardroom. And that leads to people being able to predict your behavior and realizing that they can trust you, that you are who you set out to be. And I love that Nicole bring up the word, maybe that part of you needs a little bit of love. Because that's where my mind goes, that if I am to know myself, then that means I need to spend time in my own company. And I'm not gonna feel comfortable in the company of someone who resents me. I like to use the image of a neighbor moving in, a new neighbor moving in, and I go over to that neighbor and I knock on that door to know that person. And if that person will open that door with eyes that are hateful and bitter and judging, then I'm not going to feel comfortable in that company. I'm not going to want to stay around to know who that person truly is. And I believe this is sometimes how we open the doors to ourselves. And that makes us feel very uncomfortable in knowing new parts of us and discovering who we are at our core. And we get to make that choice, Shell, to open that door with eyes of compassion and curiosity and understanding and love and care, to spend time with ourselves, just like how we would treat our best friend. And I believe that's the foundation of knowing who we truly are, to live it day by day in our leadership and in our lives. Thank you.
Can I react on?
Yeah.
I'd like to go back to Linda first on the false humility that you mentioned, and I think that's a big one. And the way I like to explore humility, authentic humility and false humility with clients is by questioning, does it keep you small? If false humility keeps you small, it's the ego. Because we are not here only in this world to be kept small by any means. So if authentic humility makes us shine, if we think of Mahatma Gandhi or Nelson Mandela, they radiated a beautiful humility from within, but were standing in their greatness. And that is true humility. But when humility is used as, oh, I don't want to come on a LinkedIn show because I don't want to be in the spotlight, that's not humility. That's the ego keeping us small. Yeah. So, and then on the transparency journey, I love that topic because another misunderstanding, and it also goes together with leaders stepping into their vulnerability, authentic vulnerability, transparency. This is all connected. And yes, I agree. Being authentic doesn't mean that I have to tell you my whole life or all aspects of what we want. It needs to be in context. And it's important that when I share something, that it is in context and that it serves as an inspirational example or something that people can learn from. So maybe sometimes it's easier to tell a story of what we have gone through ourselves for people to see their story in it. But just transparency for the sake of transparency um, is not very useful, and it can also feel too much if there is no context and if it doesn't work in the relationship, because in companies we have a role, we have a responsibility, and that's also part of the context that is at place. So and I really love your analogy of knocking at the door of a neighbor. What's the energy that is coming across me? And yes, we don't knocking at our own door. That's where it starts. Yeah. Have a look inside. Yeah. Thank you.
My friend's father, thank you, Nicole. My friend's father used to say, "Tell the truth, Kathleen. Just don't always be telling it." Like little kids are always blurting out.
I was also going to
How
add
come
to
that
that.
lady has such a bad face on?
Yeah, that honesty without compassion is brutality.
Yeah.
I love using that phrase, and that always makes my client go, "Oh."
Yeah.
Dorit, thank you, Linda, Jenny, for your positive, amazing insights to the authentic leadership conversation. Dorit, I'm coming to you right now. What's coming up for you as we talk about authentic leadership?
Thank you, Michelle. Listening to these lovely ladies, I get some lightnings of inspiration, and I actually used Stina Marie's method and noted something down today. Because what Nicole said about people who don't grow spend much time in frustration, that really hit home with me. When I used to work as well in sales, different kind of shops, as a beautician, a pet store, any kind of place, I would be placed in a position of leadership after a while. But I never got any training, never got any education or anything that could inspire me to become a better leader. So the only way that I could feel that I was doing a better job was to learn more about the products, learn more about sale in particular, like client, how to approach clients, all that kind of stuff. And it made me very frustrated because I felt that I needed to treat my fellow workers in a different way. I wanted to rally them and inspire them and work together for a better shop. But I never got the tools, and so that made me super frustrated, and I really could resonate with that. And now over to Jenny, because you said about knocking on your own door and open the door to yourselves. And I see that with my clients when they go into the hypnotic state and we go into the subconscious mind. So many have the blocks. They have put up this wall. They have static interference that prevents them from actually seeing their authentic self, because they've been wearing a mask, acting in a way that they think is the right way, the way that society wants them to act and wants them to respond. And so they don't know what's their authentic self. So by opening that door, going inwards and daring to open that door and see what's behind it and meet yourself and learn and grow, it's invaluable. It's just amazing when that happens. So yeah, that was what came up for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Dorit. What's coming up for me as I listen to you talk about like learning how to be a better leader. Um, when I left my previous job, I had no idea who I was. I had lost myself in that job that I was in for 13 years. I probably didn't even know myself when I started that job and only got further taken away from it. It's only been through conversations with these wonderful ladies in front of us today and so many other people that I've been getting to know what my authentic self is and how I can lead. And every time I have a conversation with each of you, and I tap into that in a deeper way. There's always some layer of like after the conversation, whether I'm go right into another task or some work with a client or whatever it is, there's always some level of unpacking the conversation that we just had to see how I can take away from that and become better and incorporate it. So I am a lesson in real time of like going from not having any training in leadership to trying to teach myself, but now I get to beautifully learn through all of you and your teachings too. And yeah, it's something that I'm not entirely sure who the full authentic shell is because I'm still uncovering layers that had been pushed down and hidden away for so long. And so yeah, that's what's coming up for me as I hear you talk about not having the training and trying to look for places to teach yourself and to do better, and then how you help clients do that too. So thank you, Dorit. Stina, I'm coming over to you. What's coming up for you when we talk about authentic leadership?
Thanks, Shell. I'm going to bring the etymology in again because I think I'm like the resident word nerd when we're talking about a topic. I'm like, ooh, like what's the history of this word? Like there's so much like a energy of legacy in the way that we talk about things. So with authenticity, it has the same roots as the words author and authority. And so author is like you sign your name off on something. You claim it. That's you. That's yours. Those are your words. And when we say that someone has authored something, they hold that. That's part of them and their expression. And authority, like having our power and the ability to express and to share ourselves in different ways. And so I was thinking about that in the context of that more defensive stance, right? This is just who I am. It's interesting because it reminded me of conversations I've had with my kids, where particularly my oldest, where I have to say, okay, this is what you did, and this is all of the results of that. When you act in this way, it makes it very difficult for other people to respond to you positively. So it's acknowledging that we can't control other people's responses because sometimes we will act in integrity with ourselves. We will be tapped into our identity and our authenticity, and they will still not like it or respond well because of their own stuff. But if we're creating conditions that make it very difficult for someone else to cooperate and collaborate and respond positively and engage, then that's where I will ask my kids, like, is that the kind of person you want to be? Do you want to be somebody who brings this kind of energy into the situation? Because it's making it difficult for everyone to have a positive outcome. And so for me, it's that tapping into who you are and coming into oneness with that and going, is this who I want to be? Is this how I want to express myself? Is this the energy I want to put in and invest in this situation or team? And when you do feel in integrity with that is when you have security in yourself. And when you have security in yourself, you can bring like a more full version of yourself to leadership. And I think it makes us more agile, and more whole, and it's just a more pleasant way to move through the world when you can make those changes, when you can recognize the story that you're writing, the situation that you're creating, and make those changes to grow. So those are all things that growth has come up and that as well. So those are my thoughts.
I love that. Can I build on that or expand on that? What you are describing in the way that you raise your kids is you raise them with a lot of awareness of themselves. They can get on a lot of self-awareness. And that's really where it starts. And in my book, I also describe a little bit of the process. Like if we go to the door of awareness, that's where we start to have access to ourselves. And we find in that depth trust, deep trust. You called it security, but it's really deep trust. Wisdom. We get access to our wisdom and our innate creativity. And those three things we cannot learn. We cannot go to university and learn them. We can only access them. They are not something to be, we can't acquire them as skills. We can't read about it. It's really something to which we have to get access. And that's why I believe, especially with the state that our world is in today, we don't need leaders with knowledge and degrees. We need more leaders who can access their deeper wisdom, who can access their creativity, who have access to this deep trust in life and in themselves. And without doing the work on authenticity, there is no access. And if we want to solve the problems of climate change and all the other problems there are to solve, we need more wisdom and more creativity and more trust to do the crazy things that might have come through the creative impulses that we're accessing. And of course, then we can apply all the knowledge and the skills and the competences that we also need. But yeah, that's why I'm so passionate about this, because if we are disconnected on the inside, we see a disconnected world, and we will create silos, and we cannot see things in connection. So a leader who is disconnected, there's no way it can go to sustainable regenerative leadership. Maybe regulations will force a process, but it will be done for the wrong reasons, because it's good for marketing, because it's good for profit, but it will not come from the inside. Whereas when we have an integrated leader who has done the work, or continues to do the work, because we are like onions. We peel away one layer and the next one is waiting. It doesn't stop. But an integrated leader, well connected on the inside, will see a connected world, is able to connect the dots, will be able to lead through integration. And that is what we really need, because it's all connected. And so, yeah, I could speak less about this, but I really I really think it starts with us, and then it starts with building authentic relationships at the board levels, cut through all the politics at the executive levels, and really connect to be a force for good. Because we are here for such a short time on this beautiful earth, and we need her more than she needs us. And in that time that we're here, we can either further destroy her and deplete her of resources and just look at our little silos and the little short-term profits, or we can be a force for good. But for that, we need connected, integrated leaders to lead us. Yeah.
Thank you, Nicole. I really love that word of like integration, because it makes me think of like looking at something on a deeper level, like a more interconnected level, a bigger picture. And
Yeah.
the bigger picture in this case is is the earth, like the planet, like for the greater good of humankind and people. Um, and there there's so many people who are so good at looking at the tiny details. And yes, the tiny details are very important, but how those tiny details come together to show us the fuller picture, you use the word silos, and that's exactly what those tiny details are. If we only keep them in those tiny little bubbles, if we only keep looking at them in terms of what they are, but when we can bring them back together, then we can have that more holistic approach. And so I love that way of thinking about leadership and what the world needs, what companies need, what we each need as humans, to further make
Mm-hmm.
progress and to make that change. So thank you, because um, you got me to go off on a tangent about the word integration, but it with reason. So thank you for sharing that with us, and thank you for joining us for a wonderful high vibe conversation on authentic leadership. I want to give you an opportunity now to let people know how they can connect with you. So where should people be looking for you? Where can they have more conversations? Where can they reach out?
Yeah, I think the easiest way is probably connect me through LinkedIn. Um, LinkedIn is a good way to start, or send me an email at nicole@heimansvetkovic.com, and that's probably the more difficult one unless I start spelling. But it's our website is www and then .heiman, which is my last name, and then followed without a dash, no point in between, by the name Svetkovic, which is CVETKOVIC.com. And my email is nicole@heimansvetkovic.com. So, and LinkedIn also works. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Well,
much.
yeah, thank you, Nicole. It's been wonderful having you here. Thank you for everyone who has joined us for this wonderful conversation. Again, if at any point you feel like you want to add to it and contribute your own thoughts, insights, or experiences, please feel free to share with us in the chat or connect with us more privately on LinkedIn. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube to catch up on the replays and follow along. And again, if you want to have a high vibe conversation of your own, you're more than welcome to join us and book in with one of us to continue that conversation as well. So there's the link for you there. I will make sure to share Nicole's LinkedIn and email address in the chat notes as well, so that you don't have to rewind to listen to the spelling unless you want to. And until next time, we will say bye for now. So thanks again for being here.